Hello guys, welcome back to another HONA tutorial. Today we're going to be going through the pure build process from start to finish in maximum detail so that you can get the most out of your products. So jumping straight into it, we've dehydrated all of the nails using 100% acetone. Now the reason for this is to prevent any oils and residues being ingrained and burying themselves in the nail when we start to file. And I'm showing you here a little bit of damage on the client's hand from where she's damaged her matrix previously. So we're going to be really careful around that area. So we're starting off with the cuticle prep once we've dehydrated. I'm using the flame bit, which is perfect for lifting the cuticle away from the nail plate. You can absolutely do this manually, that's not a problem at all. I just prefer to use the e-file for speed reasons, and I do feel for me it's a little bit more thorough than using manual prep tools. If you did want me to show you how I do a manicure in full using just manual tools, I can do that, so let me know in the comments below if you think that would be beneficial for you. Notice that I'm starting in the centre and then going towards the left hand side of the nail. I'm then flipping the e-file into reverse and starting again, going from the middle to the right hand side of the nail. And this is what opens up the cuticle and the side walls a little bit more than just going around in one direction. Once I push back all the cuticles using the flame bit, I'm going in with the barrel bit. This bit is perfect for pushing back the cuticles a little bit more if needs be, but also exfoliating any of the non-living tissue riding on the nail plate. And it gets really close to the cuticle area as well, which is brilliant for those places you can't necessarily reach usually. I'm doing the same as I did before, so I'm going from the middle to the left, flipping the whole thing into reverse again, and then going from the middle to the right, doing the same on every single nail before we move on to the next step. Okay, so we're now moving on to arguably the most important step in this entire process, which is filing or etching the nail plate. We recommend using a 100 or 150 grit file to etch the nail plate before applying any product. We know that this might sound a little bit drastic to some people, but hear us out. There's a few reasons why we recommend a lower grit file or a stronger grit, however you want to look at it. And reason number one is because the product is Hema free. So we need to have a really good base for the product to adhere to. A little bit like when you're sanding down skirting boards before you apply the gloss. We need something for that product to grip onto because it isn't depending on Hema. We also know that from using a 150 or 100 grit file correctly, you aren't going to cause any damage to the client's nail. This means minimal pressure, only etching in the one area one time and not going over the same area again and again. Whereas if you're using a 240 file, your client's going to come back with lifting and chipping, and this is because the nail wasn't prepped correctly in the first place and the product had nothing to adhere to. Then you're going to go over and over and over again with the same file, trying to create that adhesion that you need, and it's not going to happen. The nail's just going to get weaker and thinner where it's being buffed over and over again. So something to keep in mind is when you are doing your infills, when your client comes back, you're using a 150, 100 grit file, you're only going to need to file where the growth is, and that should be plenty. Coming back to the present moment, we need to be making sure as well that we're pulling back the client's free edge away from the nail plate so that we can make sure down the sides of the nail is etched, as well as pulling the cuticle up to make sure that under there is fully etched as well. These are the areas that we might get lifting, so it's really important that those areas are filed just as well as the centre of the nail is filed. And that is all I have to say about filing for now. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, so the nail is fully etched. I'm satisfied that the product can lay on there and stay on there. Now we can nip the cuticles. So we're only nipping the areas that are white, clearly non-living tissue, and we're not going to get mixed up with the eponychium or the proximal nail fold because we need those to keep the client's nail safe and happy. So I'm going to speed this part up by just nipping away any hangnails and any non-living tissue. Okay, so because we have cut down the nails, we need to now reshape the nails using a 240 grit file. We're using the softest grit to avoid any tearing or splitting of the nail. A 100 or 150 grit is just far too strong to use on the free edge. When it comes to shaping the nail, I always start on one side of the nail and move towards the center of the nail in one direction, and then again from the other side of the nail in one direction, moving towards the center point of the nail until I've reached my desired shape. I won't show you how I filed all of the nails just because it is quite repetitive, so we'll skip this stage and move on to the next step. Okay, just like magic, all of the nails are filed. Now we just need to dehydrate the nail again. When I dehydrate, I'm making sure that underneath the nail is dehydrated, the free edge, the side walls, and under the cuticle. The entire nail plate needs to be completely dehydrated before any product touches the surface. So just make sure you're really scrubbing and being very thorough with this process. So now all of the nails are dehydrated, we're moving on to complete base. Now we're making sure that we're applying a thin, even coat of complete base to all of the nails. As you can see from my method here, I'm almost scrubbing it into the nail plate a little bit. There's not a lot of product on my bristles at all. We're making sure that, again, it is just enough product to cover the nail plate. Remove that little bit of fluff there and cap the free edge as well. We're just going to repeat the same process, the same method on each of the nails, making sure, most importantly, that we cap the free edge. On every single layer that we apply, we need to be capping the free edge. This is what seals in the product. One example that I've shared previously is to cling wrap or cling film your manicure. So if you've got a leftover dish, if you imagine a glass dish full of leftover food and you want to preserve it for the next day, you need to make sure that you take that cling film, you pull it over the rim of the bowl, and that is what is going to keep your food fresh. If you just place the cling film on top of the bowl, it's just going to float there, it's got nothing to hang on to or grip onto, and it's not going to do its job. Same principle for a manicure. And then once you've coated all the nails evenly, you can pop that in the lamp to cure for 60 seconds. Okay, so we've applied our first layer, which is the complete base, which is our super grippy adhesive base coat, and we're now going in with our first layer of Pure Build, the second most important step. I call this the paper layer, and that is a paper thin layer of Pure Build applied to each nail. And again, we're just going to repeat the same process on all of the nails, capping the free edge and then curing in the lamp for 60 seconds. We're now moving on to building the structure of the nail. So whether the nail is flat, thin, curved or thick, we need to make sure that we're building an apex. The Pure Build strength comes from the shape of the nail. So the goal is to have it thin at the cuticle, thickest at the apex, and then thin again towards the free edge. Now we create the structure by placing a bead appropriate for the length of the nail down on the nail plate, pushing that towards the cuticle and then floating it down in a zigzag motion towards the free edge. Once we've done this, we can flip the hand upside down. That draws the product down, the gravity will pull the product down to emphasize the apex, and then we can go in with a striper brush or a liner brush to tidy up the free edge, tidy up the side walls, and make sure the product's evenly coated and the free edge is capped. Once we're happy that the product has been balanced and it's evenly coated, we can pop that into the lamp to cure for 60 seconds. When I'm using Pure Build, I work with one nail at a time. The reason for this is that the viscosity of the product is thinner and it moves and self-levels a lot quicker than other builders that we might be used to. So it's important that we work with one finger at a time to avoid flooding the cuticle area or any of the sidewall areas. And then it's just a case of repeating the same steps for each and every nail. So we're applying the bead, floating that product down towards the free edge, flipping the hand over, and then balancing the product using a striper brush. We can do the same on every single nail, curing for 60 seconds. You might notice on some of the nails that I actually work upside down. This might seem a little bit topsy-turvy and it definitely isn't for everyone, but I do find it easier to sometimes rebalance or move the apex around while the nail's still upside down. If you'd like a bit more of an in-depth tutorial on how I do this, I can definitely try to film that. So just leave a comment down below if you think that's something that you'd be interested in, and I'll figure out a way to do it. Because we're coming into autumn, my client wanted a gradient brown vibe, so I went with dunes, cashew, latte, hazel and cocoa. Now these gels are extremely pigmented. When I say extremely, I'm not exaggerating. They're very, very luscious pigmented gels, so you don't need a lot of product and you need to apply in thin coats. As you can see from the pinky finger, I've applied a very thin coat and I've got an awful lot of payoff from that one coat alone. So that just shows you how pigmented these really are. When I'm applying the first layer of gel colour, I tend to steer a little bit clear of the cuticle area and then I work my way towards that area in the second coat. Just make sure you're capping the free edge on the colour as well, just your friendly reminder to cling wrap the manicure. As you can see, I'm edging a little bit closer to the cuticle area, and then once I'm happy that the whole nail is covered, I can pop them into the lamp to cure for 60 seconds and go in with my second coat of gel polish. With my first coat, I created a template, which means that I can now edge a little bit closer to that cuticle area and a little bit closer to the free edge. So you'll see that I'm applying the gel polish a millimetre away from the cuticle area and then gently pushing it up towards the cuticle, making sure that I'm not flooding that area. One of the things that I really love about this gel polish is that it is a lot harder to flood the cuticle or the sidewall area, and the reason for that is just because of the pigment and it being a little bit thicker than gels that I've previously used. So because of that, it's not naturally flowing into that area, and it gives you a little bit more time to play around with the colour and make sure that you're happy that the nail's coated. Once you're happy that everything is covered and it's all looking beautiful, you can pop that into the lamp to cure for 60 seconds and then go in with your top coat. My client wanted to use the matte top coat, so I'm just applying a very thin coat of that all over the nail and capping the free edge. Once you've top coated all of the nails, you can pop that into the lamp to cure for 60 seconds and you'll be left with a beautiful autumnal matte manicure. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. Please leave us any feedback in the comments and tune in for the next one. Thanks guys, bye!